everyone, this is Colleen with Designs of Value Art School, and today we are going to paint a Tiger Lily. And we're going to have pretty much of a different background. It's going to be more solid turquoise and then darker shades in there. But this is going to be a red-orange daylily. So this will be a lot of fun to paint. And the colors that we're going to be using are a little bit different than what I normally use. To create the light value, we're going to use an Old Holland, which is the brand name, Turquoise Blue Deep. And it's just a baby blue, basically. So if you have a color that's similar to a baby blue, that'll work just fine. And then this one, which is going to create the dark value, is the Windsor Green Blue shade. So you want to make sure you get the blue shade so you got some blue-green in there, because our color scheme, and I've got paint all over myself. I don't know how I did this. The color scheme is going to be blue-green and red-orange. Those are going to be basically the colors that we use. Now I've gone ahead and played around with these colors that I just told you and created the values that we're going to use. And if we need more, we can darken it or lighten it to add more values in there. Just want to make sure that we don't get paint all over everything here. And be prepared with this dark blue turquoise or blue green to clean your water quite often, because I have already had to change mine twice. So what I'm doing is I grabbed a little bowl, I put just normal water in there, and then I did add the Blending and Glazing Medium by Windsor & Newton as well. I really like this, and I don't want this to be all over my palette, so I just wanted to separate it out a little bit. And I'm just going to mix this in. Looks really, really, really dark, but I don't think it's going to be by the time it's all mixed. So it's a lot of water in there. But that's okay. If we need to add more, we can. That's the idea here, is to play with it to get it to be what we want it to be. So let's just try this scrap paper. Yeah, that's going to be a nice dark value, and I already got green over here. Unbelievable. This green is very overbearing, so be cautious. There we go. Okay, I'm going to use the Sterling Edwards. This one is the small, I believe. Oh yeah, right there, small. Hello. And I'm going to put this background in, and I'm going to back this up again a little bit more. So you can see what I'm doing on this background. Now let's talk about that background. Again, I'm just going to do pretty much the blue turquoise, or the blue green, however you want to describe it. The dark areas in here, and this is one of the reasons that I masked everything in, because I didn't want to lose that really pretty red-orange flower. This area is going to be dark. Close over here is going to be dark. So there's some dark areas in there. And I'm going to do it section by section. Probably do like this in fourths. Do this corner first and then that corner and go right around. Now this side's got the light areas on it. So that's where we're going to use the Old Holland blue. And some in here. And again, I'm going to do this wet on dry. I do not want to do this wet on wet, because I think it would lighten the background just a little bit more than what I would like to see. So I'm going to pick up my paint in my brush, and I'm just dipping it in the bowl. And this is kind of the way my brush looks. Like it's pretty dark in there. Now this is going to go right in again with that drawing gum on there. I don't have to worry about going over that flower. And this is dark over here too, so we'll get that covered up right away too. And this seems to come up just like this. And then there's a streak that comes down this way. Again, I'm just going to go right over that flower. And then this comes down right in here too. It's pretty dark. Now, I am going to take some paper towels and just wipe off quite a bit of that paint. Now I'm going to wet my brush because I want to get that lighter value. This is not the lightest value, this is just the lighter value. And I'm going to go right along the side here. Yeah, it's lighter. You can see right there how it is lighter. I'm going to do that again. Pick up a little bit more paint. Now you want to do this fairly quickly. You don't want this paint to dry on here. Okay. So we're good there. You want a lot of paper towels because this is going to be, I'm just going to soften this edge away because I don't want it to dry on me. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. This is the dark side, so I want to be sure and soften this edge away. I'm just going to take a clean brush. Don't want it to be too terribly wet. Soften this line away. Don't want any lines. And if some of that comes up, that's okay too. Some of that color, not a biggie. This background's supposed to be nice and muted like this. Okay, now I'm going to continue with the larger part. I'm going to flip the picture around here. And up in this corner it's fairly dark. And with the tape like that you want to make sure that you get right to that edge, otherwise it could leave a white spot. Down in here it's fairly dark. Now the bottom half of this little opening is dark, so we're going to put that in. And same thing here, there's some foliage going on in the background, so we'll do it like that. And then we'll come back in and soften that in. And this actually does come up a little bit like that. Now I'm going to just take this brush and soften this away. And I'm going to just soften this edge. Pull some of that color out so it's lighter on one corner than the other. There we go. Now in some of this finer detail, I'm going to dry my brush on the paper towel, pick up just a corner of the water. Down in here it's got this lighter blue, so we want to be sure and get that in there. Over here it definitely has that. You want it to blend into the background that's already down. That looks good. And this over here is pretty light too, most of this. So I'm just doing little cross hatches to blend these colors together. There, I think we've accomplished exactly what I wanted to do, which was have some multicolors in that background, light, medium, and dark, that go well together. Okay, now what I am going to do is I'm going to dry this, but before I dry this, I am going to take my paper towel and I'm going to pick up any moisture that's beading up on the gum, on the drawing gum or the masking fluid or whatever you want to call it. This company calls it a drawing gum, and it does say tacky like a gum, so I guess that's a good name. I'm just turning it so it's easier for me to reach. And you want to do that too as you paint. It's pretty difficult to get it to pull the way you want it to unless you turn your board. I love these Masonite boards for that reason. They're easy to turn. You can tape your paper right down. Now this paper, just so you are aware, is Arches 140 cold press. It's pretty much what I use. I did on my yellow rose use a rough, and it was starting out pretty nice, but the detail was lost. I ended up doing a extra segment just to fix the detail the way I wanted it. So rough paper is difficult to get the detail, but cold press is the middle. So you've got rough, cold press, and then hot press. And we will be doing some hot press soon. But cold press, I started out as a decorative artist, and we would take these Masonite boards and put acrylic down and use a rolling brush to get that eggshell finish, as we called it. And it's actually this almost the identical texture of the cold press, so I'm very used to the cold press texture. I love it. I'm going to take my cement, I think they call this a cement square. It's just a little rubbery square thing that they call a cement remover. And see how it's going to take my drawing gum right off of there? Actually, if I do it this way, it'll take off more at once. I actually have found that I like this drawing gum better than the masking fluid. My masking fluid, I can never seem to keep it fresh enough, and if you don't have that ammonia smell to it, it's just not going to do its job the way it's supposed to. This one doesn't seem to be a big deal. It just continues to work, whether I'm using it all the time or if it's been around for a while. So it works really well. Alright, it's coming. Now this isn't damaging your paper. It's amazing how white that paper looks once you remove this. It sounds like it's being really rough on the paper, but it's not. Well, I didn't make you watch me put it down. You'd be bored to tears. You were probably bored to tears watching me do this. But I think I will do that graph. And when we come back, you can watch me sketch the design right on the watercolor paper. Like I said, this is 140 pound Arches, my favorite watercolor paper. There's many out there, and I've used different styles, but this is the one that I keep coming back to. So there we go. Make sure I got all these little edges off of here. So when we come back, I'll have the graph traced on here. Actually, I do have a graph. I can slide this right into the graph and go from there, and then just put it on my, trace it onto my watercolor paper will be good. Alright, so I'll see you in a little bit.